Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Small Engine Velocity. And today's video is a kind of a brother ruckus video, I guess. Well, anyways, my brother was shopping around as he always does on Facebook MarketPlace and ran across a really inexpensive Ruckus for a really good price. And the best part is that it came with a title. If you've ever struggled with buying anything off of MarketPlace or Craigslist or anywhere else, it's always no title, you have to go get it bonded, and that's really not a good situation whenever you want to buy something. But for this time, it was a cheap price with a title. He brought it over to his house and started working on it and just started it up and drove it around, and it bogged really bad. It's like as soon as you hit like 15 miles per hour, it just went bleh, bleh, like bogged really bad. So what my brother did was he took it over to my house and asked me if I could go ahead and get it tuned up and get it working and running right for him. So today's video for this MarketPlace Ruckus is to go ahead and inspect it, clean it up, mostly to get it to run right without the bogging. Maybe a little bit of tuning, but mostly just to get it to run right. But before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and roll the intro. So the first thing we did was we took off the floorboard and the battery box, the stuff that covers the motor and everything, and then the battery box where all the electronics and everything is. And you kind of get the idea that this was a theft recovery. When you look at the key is one of those aftermarket Amazon keys that has the little flap that you can close the hole, and you have to use the left part of the key to open it up to kind of protect the keyhole on there. It's definitely aftermarket. It's like one of those dirt bike keys. And then if you look where the signal lights are, where those big rectangle lights used to be, they put the little LED signal lights in there to, I guess they wanted to minimize them. No one likes the giant turn signals, so that's one of the first things people do is go for the signal lights to slim it down. In addition to that, when he got it, the battery would barely hold a charge. So he went to Amazon and bought one of those blue batteries, the gel battery. I don't know if it's necessarily a lithium cell, but it's a gel battery, and it works perfectly fine. And then when you look at the left side brake for the rear, the brake is curly-cued, like it's bent. It's a typical sign that something has fallen on the ground. If you ever see a bike that has bent brake levers on there, then you're looking at something that's at least from standing up has fallen down, not necessarily fallen riding forward, but just fell. Another thing that I like to take a look at is the ECU. I know it's kind of weird, I'm not actually checking anything electronic, but when you look at the ECU, it's in that cast aluminum or whatever that metal is. Generally, it's a pretty consistent wear on there, or what do I mean? If it goes underwater, you can see the spots all over it, and it has a lot of heavy white corrosion-y stuff on it. That's usually a sign that's been exposed to a lot of water, been underwater. If you look at the ECU and it looks relatively like it's been dry and never been covered in water, it's a good idea. Just take a look at it. You could tell easily if it looks corroded. If you look at the headlight assembly, is the stock headlight assembly that I always gravitate back towards. I haven't done it this time. I don't think I will in a while, because I actually had to cut my battery box for my last one. But if you look all the way, the wires down from the headlamp, and you look down the body, the neck of the Ruckus, you don't see any issues, cuts, anything with the wire that goes down to the rest of the bike. Another thing, like I said, with signal lights, another popular thing for people to replace is the tail light to something smaller and less obtuse, I guess, on the back of the bike. You've seen the jet engine lights in the back. I've done that before on my own Ruckus. I even designed a 3D printed part to be able to put over there so you can mount that properly. If you look on this one, that's what they have. I tested it and it works, so if we wanted to keep it for a little while, that's fine, but eventually we're gonna shave off the rear taillight bracket on the rear frame. Another thing through the inspection is to look through the battery box, look across it, look in the wiring. A lot of times when people mess with their Ruckuses, they cut stuff and put wire nuts and put a bunch of butt connectors all over the place, trying to hook up strange things onto the bike that don't need to be there, or there's a better way to do it, but that's what people normally do. They try to take the shortcut. And I'm guilty of this. I've done this before. I just want to get it done. It's going to be in a battery box. No one's going to see it. But eventually it will cause you problems in there. Trust me. Kind of a quick inspection on the motor. It looks pretty clean. Nothing really terrible on it. It doesn't look like there's any buildup from any type of leaking or from seals on the motor, from the head or anything like that. And then when you look at the CARB is super shiny. It leads me to believe that they bought another CARB, put it on this bike to try to get it to run right before they got rid of it. Because if you look, it's super shiny. And later on when we look through the actual CARB, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then the only thing in the front end that really bothers me is they did, you know how the battery box has those 2 clips for the screws? Each one of the screws is like $4 and the clip is like $2 or so. It's ridiculously expensive. Plus then you have to pay shipping for Partzilla to go get it. So it's kind of a bear to get across that. What I found in this one is that there's zip ties and holes drilled through. So they drilled through the back and the front battery box holes and put zip ties to close things together and then hold a bunch of other stuff just to hold it all together. And you know, that maybe that's cool in the short term to try to get rid of something, but you just drilled holes and everything. So now I have to deal with replacing or not me, my brother has to deal with replacing the battery box because it has holes drilled into it. So now that we've got all of the inspection done and reviewed everything, it looks relatively safe on there. Let's go ahead, put the motovlog helmet on, and then go ahead and take it on a ride to see how she performs. Okay, so here's riding it fresh, okay? You know, turn this fake replacement key, hit start, and it turns over right away. Seems a little laggy and stuff, but I mean, all in all, it sounds healthy. So we're gonna go ahead and, I mean, you can't even hear it. You can probably hear my brother edging his grass over there. Then you can hear this. So we try to kind of ride it a little bit. The low acceleration is pretty good, but look there, full throttle bog. So, but if I gradually get it up, I gradually throttle it, it'll build speed, but you can feel it bog, right? So there's definitely something wrong somewhere in here, and you know, that's what we're here to find out, right? Oh man, I haven't ridden a stock Ruckus this high off the ground in forever. You know, maybe it's cold is because it's running like that, but it shouldn't bog, right? Alright, so gradual on the throttle. Yeah, there you go, bog. Stops accelerating, just bogs. I only have 2 bolts in the seat right now, so it's probably not a good idea to like go super fast. Alright, let's see if we can get it to 20. Come on guys, 20. 21. I'm a lightning bolt, guys. I'm a lightning bolt. Alright. Alright. Let's go ahead and take this back into the garage and let's do a little bit of inspection, because I already cleaned the CARB, like I said before. So it can't be anything to do with the CARB with the bogging. So, well, it might. We'll see. We'll take the filter off or something. Let's pass the other bikes and get back to our little working area. Alright, switching back to the other camera. You know, it always surprises me when I ride a stock Ruckus how quiet it is. Like, you can't really hear anything. It's designed like that, I suppose. Every Ruckus I've ever ridden was incredibly loud. So the first thing we're gonna do is take off this CARB. Usually if there's a bog, it's a clogged jet or a stuck float, diaphragm's messed up, vacuum leak, intake problem, intake block, something like that. So let's take that apart first. Usually that's the first place you want to look whenever you're working on a Ruckus, is the carburetor. There's always people asking on the Facebook group about carburetor questions. I do have a carburetor video, and I'll put it right here, just in case you want to take a look at a good video on how to clean your carburetor and then be able to put it back correctly. So when I took apart the carb, everything looked immaculate. Like usually you'll see in the float bowl lines where the fuel is evaporated, that white stuff from the ethanol inside of your gasoline, none of that was there. That doesn't mean that the carb couldn't have some kind of plug somewhere. So what I did after I disassembled the carb was I carefully put it inside of the ultrasonic cleaner, made sure to warm it to about 30 degrees in the tub, and then set it to about 20 minutes to go ahead and start doing its magic to clean. You can actually see when you first turn on the ultrasonic cleaner, the stuff just starts to come off of it on the side. Ultrasonic cleaners are great, especially if you're cleaning carbs all the time. Even car parts that are small enough to fit inside of there is great. I've used it on a Harley carb once. I love how it breaks off little bits of little things, and you see it floating in the water later on. Okay, once I'm done, I take everything out and put it on top of my workbench in my garage. I take my compressor, blow out all the pieces so that they're completely dry, reassemble the carb, and while I'm at it, I wanted to go ahead and delete the airbox, so I went ahead and removed all the airbox parts off of the Ruckus. Also took off the rear fender and rerouted all the hoses into other places. I know Get Attack, he has a video on it. I'll put it right here. And that video is for what to do with all the hoses. I did a little quick start without an intake on there. Went ahead and turned the key, got it to start. Everything ran great. There was no bog on the throttle while sitting on the stand. Now remember, sitting on the stand versus throttling it with actual load on the motor is different, but there was bog when it was sitting on the stand before. No bog now. So now what do? I don't have an intake. So I go ahead and I make one. Previously, a long time ago, I've made intakes with some radiator tubing. I found a good radiator tube from AutoZone, and it has in the middle, if you cut it in the middle, you'll have a 90-degree bend and another one with a 45-degree bend. It fits right over the carb, and then you also need some hose clamps, and then I have a unifilter that will fit on the end of this also. You can go ahead and install this. When you put it on the Ruckus, it'll be a little bit snug fitting it over the carb opening, but it will fit, and then you just tighten the hose clamps, and there you go. I think the hose was $10 or something like that. I don't even remember anymore. By the way, if you saw some fuel injector cleaner, that was from my wife's car. First thing to do after that is to go ahead and start working on the CVT. Nothing was pointing to the CVT being wrong, but since it's already, being taken apart, let's go ahead and take all the 8mm bolts out of the CVT and take the cover off. This one was pretty tight. I had to do a little bit of tapping around it because it's pretty clear that the CVT cover on this Ruckus has never been taken off. Once you get the cover off, I recommend getting your compressor and blowing out that whole area from the clutch all the way to the variator and just get some of that brake dust out now. You may forget later on, and then also when you're working inside of there, all that brake dust belt dust and clutch dust is gonna get all over you. And if you're like me, I touch my face a lot. I'm gonna get a bunch of crap all over me. Just do yourself a favor and blow it out. Then take a impact and use a 17mm socket to take off the bolt that is connected to the variator or the drive face. There are other ways to do this where you can use a tool to lock it down and use a regular wrench. Impact works great for me. I've never had any problems in the years that I've used it on this motor, on a Get motor, as well as a GY6. Just don't go to town with it once you're tightening it and just go mad. When you take a look at the drive face and the variator, you can see that there's a definite limit of how high that belt has gone on there. And there's a little bit more that could be gotten out of that to give you a little bit more speed. I had some old 5.6 gram rollers that came with a Polini variator that I never used. Reason being is because if you look at the stock rollers in here that I think are 7.6, 7.4, something like that, pretty heavy, they have flat spots on them. Not super significant flat spots, but flat spots that will hinder the rollers from sliding out to their full extent, because maybe they'll hit a flat part and they won't slide as easily, more surface area for it to resist against. I don't have a proper scale just to measure. I put the new one on there and it was 6, which 5.6 will round to 6. And then I had put the stock one on, it said 7. I think it's 7.4, I believe. So that rounds down to 7. So they're all right. I just wanted to make sure that they were all, it was labeled 5.6, but it might not have been all 5.6. They all have to be the same. If you want to use different ones, then every other one needs to be the other weight, evenly spaced. I took the CVT parts, the variator and the drive face and the other stuff, threw it in the ultrasonic cleaner to see if I could chip away any of that stuff that's been built on there for a while. Let it sit there for about 20 minutes in 30 degree Celsius water, and then took it back out, dried it off with the compressor, rubbed it down with a couple of dry rags, went ahead and reassembled the variator, put the rollers, put the cover, put the thrust thingamabob in there, put it all back together, put the drive face on, making the belt between the sandwich. I put the kickstart ring, the washer, and then the 17mm bolt on top of that, and then impacted that down. Some people torque it, some people put Loctite. I didn't put any blue Loctite this time. It's gonna come back off soon because we're gonna put a Polini in there. So, you know, it's not gonna fly off right now. So just hold your horses. And then I give it a test start. Now, in the test start video, it bogged slightly when I first turned it, but that bog went away. I think it's just because I just started the motor up and the float bowl wasn't full of fuel all the way yet. I just got a little bit haphazard on getting all that taken care of. So there you go. She starts, no bog. So let's go ahead and take it on a test ride to see if the bog is gone and we have completed our task today for this video. So let's put the motovlog helmet on and let's take a ride. All right, we're back in the position again. So far what we did was we cleaned the CARB twice, created a short or deleted the air box, and then we went into the CVT, cleaned it out with the ultrasonic cleaner, as we use the ultrasonic cleaner on the CARB also, and we also use the ultrasonic cleaner on the variator, and then put in some 5.6 gram weights instead of the stock 7.6 or whatever the stock ones are. It's running nice. I got it to idle great. I don't know why the intake did so much, but here we go. Let's give it a little test ride. Automatically, it's got more power. I can feel it. Look at that. And then it also doesn't have the bogs. And I'm already going 25. Up to that corner. I don't know how fast I can get it. I completely forgot what it was like to ride a 49cc scooter. It feels good because it's riding something slow very fast, so let's go ahead and throttle it up. If I remember correctly, getting to 30 at the end of the street was pretty good. And it says 30. A little over 30. I bet you I could get it to a little bit faster if I had a longer runway, but the point of this particular video was to get it to run right, and if you ask me, this is running right, you know. Probably should put a tack. Yeah, I gotta put a tack on here. I got that extra tack in the garage that I had originally from a long time ago. That'll help us tune this sucker out. Alright, well, that's it, guys. We got this to run right. It was very cheap. It didn't cost very much money to get it set up to run right again. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to continue with this little build project. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you liked everything. And if you did, give me a subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.